Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org and I'm back with another tutorial for the new Boston. Now in this video we're going to look at different properties in object-oriented programming inside of classes. We're going to be looking at the public, protected and private property types. Now let's go ahead and create a new class. I'm going to create a class, and this is going to be called bank account. And inside this class we're going to address some properties, so we're going to create some properties in here. So let's say, or we're going to create one and we're just going to chop and change around with the public, protected and private. So let's say public balance equals 3,500. So this is a balance of a bank account. I've shown this in my previous examples in some of the other tutorials using this code here, which we created a little bank account. We were able to deposit and withdraw money, and also apply it to multiple users. So if you haven't watched that tutorial already, go back and watch that and you'll probably understand this one a lot better. So our properties, our property for now is balance. Now let's go ahead and create a method. So I'm going to say public function display balance. And what this is going to do is it's simply going to return this balance. Now, if you haven't already come across this here is a representation of the class as a whole. So what we're doing is we're taking the balance, and bear in mind we're not using a $ here. We don't use a $ when we're taking a property value from a class. So we're saying, out of this class as a whole, take out the balance. So we're returning this balance value, which will be equal to 3,500. So now what we can do is, outside of our class, we can create a new instance of it. So let's say Alex equals new bank account, capital A there, remember it's case sensitive. So Alex equals new bank account, we don't need the parenthesis there. And then what we can do is we can say echo Alex display balance, okay, and remember the parenthesis because we're dealing with methods. So we're echoing out the displayed balance of this account. So let's go over to our browser and check this out. Okay, so you can see that in our browser we have the value 3,500 that has been written back to us. So what we've essentially done is use this method here to return this value here, this property value, and then display it using by calling the method, if you like. So now what happens if this data type is changed to private, for example? Now let's go back to our page, and just with this simple change, when we refresh this time, oh, okay. Right, I see why. So what we've basically let's go ahead and change this program around. So we've got public balance to start with. What we're doing in here is we're displaying the balance, but what we can do. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to, instead of use this function, I'm going to demonstrate the public, protected and private by just echoing out the property inside. So what we can do is we can say echo Alex balance. Now let's go ahead and see what's happened. So at the moment we have our property set to public. Now let's see what happens if we set it to private and we refresh. You see that we've got a fatal error: cannot access private property bank account balance in. Now you'll notice that we've got these two little colons here as well. For a static value like this, we can also do this like this. So let's go 2 colons there. It produces exactly the same result at the moment. Oh no, it doesn't. Okay, yeah, so don't worry about that for now. Yeah, we'll leave that out for now, not the point of the tutorial. So we're trying to access this private value, but we cannot. So let's change it now to protected and press F5. You see that we've now got another fatal error: cannot access protected property bank account balance in, and it tells us what line we're on. So there are different naming standards to distinguish between different private, protected or public. So let's go ahead and say public balance, or we'll just say balance. So a public variable will usually be denoted balance, and then you will have camel caps, but the first word, if you like, will have small letters. So balance of account, for example, would denote a public variable. So let's go ahead and refresh this. Oh, okay. Balance of account. There we go. Let's just update that. Let's go ahead and refresh, and oh no, okay, so oh right, okay, yeah, so sorry, let's go ahead and just put var in there and refresh. So we've got 3,500. Now let's go ahead and change this to underscore balance. Okay. Now you can see that what's happened is we're saying, oh no, undefined property there. Let's go underscore balance and refresh. Now the value stayed the same, but we've got an underscore balance here, and for protected properties we use an underscore and then a T. So it's just sort of a naming standard, if you like, for your variables to distinguish between them. So it doesn't actually change anything, but this is how we name different things. So if you remember that public is starts with a small b, well in this case, and then we'd have camel caps afterwards. A private would just have an underscore before it, and a protected would have an underscore and T. So you can see that with the public keyword we're able to access the variable outside. However, with the protected or the private we're not. So let's go ahead and call this method again, so display balance, and let's go ahead and refresh to make sure everything's working properly. Okay, so 3,500. Now let's change this to private. So what's happening now is we're returning the value inside here, and it's a private data type, whereas before it didn't let us. Let's check what happens. Okay, so it comes up with 3,500, so it's allowed us to use this private balance within our class. So now let's go ahead and change this to protected, and let's come and refresh, and you can see that this time it's still displayed it. So you can see that while we're accessing things inside of our class, protected and private are both going to allow us to do this. However, public is going to allow us to access it outside. Now, why do we do this? What's the reason for our public, protected and private keywords? Now, if you were to have a variable inside here, such as the bank account balance, that you didn't want to allow to be displayed on its own, you can set the type to private, and this means that the integer as a whole, or the variable in general as a whole, can't be accessed outside unless a method within returns that value. So for example, balance we want to keep as a private value, so we can't say echo Alex balance. So this line here will work because even though it's private, the method inside of it is accessing this variable. We're not accessing it from the outside. So we're calling a method that is accessing this variable, or this property rather. But however, echoing out Alex balance is not going to work because we are trying to access it from outside, and it is a private property type. So that's just basically a bit on properties, just so you can get the hang of why we do them, why we give different property types to properties, and a bit of a demonstration on what works and what doesn't.